All right, we're going to take a look at the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and the impact that could have on Bitcoin's price, whether it could cause it to go up or whether it could cause it to go down. And so this is a big bill. There's a lot into it. So we're just going to keep this high level and give you the gist of what are the levers that could be pulled that could affect Bitcoin's price. Okay. I want to keep this short and sweet and to the point and not get too much into the details because these bills can get exhausting to go through. So with this, let's just jump into it, right? So ultimately what we can expect is there's going to be tax cuts, there's going to be debt, and there's going to be very likely money printing, okay? All of those things can lead to a run up in the Bitcoin price, okay? So for example, there's going to be tax credits, right? Which puts more money in people's pockets, and when they have discretionary income, they can go ahead and spend it on what they so choose to do. And if Bitcoin's price is running, they may find themselves putting money there. So that's one way. Okay, so there's a $3.3 trillion deficit that is going to be caused by this. And so ultimately, what likely could happen is they're going to put out they might put out bonds in order to, that's how they generate the money for this. And if there's low demand for bonds, because people are losing confidence in the US dollar and the US government and all that kind of stuff, and then just the demand internationally has also been low, probably for all those reasons. Which that means is then they might have to go to quantitative easing in order to do that, because ultimately the way that they create money is they send out these bonds, and then the banks can buy that, or that's how they create the money. And then once the banks have the money, then they do this fractional reserve and they create money through the lending process. But what you can also get an impact through is if there's not enough demand, people buying these things, they will just print money to then buy them. Okay. And so that's the mechanism that's caused all this inflation that's recently happened. Okay. Is that likely to happen? I don't know. It kind of feels like it, right? With all that's going on and people kind of losing confidence in the fiat system and the dollar and the inflation, and people just, ever since 2020, they've been real guarded about inflation and actually paying attention to it, that I could see them not wanting to, but being forced to do so, which is then just going to increase the price of Bitcoin dramatically, I would venture to say. So let's take a look at some other things, right? So ultimately, if there is a increase, they could grow the money supply even, let's say, by 4 to 6%. That's going to weaken the dollar, the buying purchasing power of that, which is then going to cause the price of Bitcoin to go up. And if we go back to 2020, when they grew the money supply, we went from, if they do similar money printing, it brought Bitcoin from 10,000 to 69,000. That's extremely substantial, right? So if Bitcoin right now is around 100,000, and I'm just rounding down to 100,000, actually about 117,000 right now. Let's say we get a jump up, and I had Grok kind of an AI do some of these calculations. I said if we're at 100,000, we could easily see a jump from 15 to 40% simply based on this, and that doesn't take into any other considerations about other tailwinds we have, or game theory about corporations or strategic Bitcoin reserves at the national level, increasing kind of the FOMO and all that kind of stuff. This is just speaking from strictly a monetary position. And it said that if we use a baseline of 100,000, we could see a jump from 15 to 40%, so $115,000 to $144,000 in a year, easily, just from that lever alone. Okay, and we already see Bitcoin is at 117 right now. Okay, so what if the Fed fights back? Right, Powell has shown that he doesn't like Trump. He doesn't like to do. They haven't been doing anything with the rates. So let's see here. So The Fed might hike rates to cool things down if inflation spikes to strengthen the dollar. A stronger dollar and tighter money could hurt speculative assets. Here's the thing. There was rate hikes in 2022 and Bitcoin went from 69,000 to 16,000. But again, these aren't single events. We had the FTX collapse, but again, the FTX collapse was brought to our attention because the price started to crumble. That caused the not even Ponzi scheme, just illegal behavior that was going on at FTX to become unraveled, along with some other companies. So there's multiple things at play here. But if we look at the biggest macroeconomics, when they tighten the monetary supply, Bitcoin's price goes down. This bill increases the deficit, and I would believe is going to increase the price of all assets, including Bitcoin, and it should cause it to go up dramatically, right? So what could happen if... What they would need to do is they would need to raise the interest rates. We would also need to figure out how to reduce the budget and just become more fiscally conservative. And guess what? We tried that. The whole Doge thing didn't really go anywhere, right? They pretty much gave up on that. And now we're back to just our usual printing of money. It's just going to drive Bitcoin. I mean, we've had a change in the guard, the political guard, and it was exciting to see these different approaches being taken when we were looking at doing Doge and cutting our deficit down and doing less spending. Those are all things that, if you're doing your own personal finances, live within your means. And the government hasn't been doing that at all, right? And so that was fun to see something different. And now it's almost like, didn't work. What do? We go back to the traditional playbook. There's still so many people within the political system that are just trained in the old fiat way that it's hard to get anything done without doing some of these kind of bills. And so what happens is we're just back to the usual. And the usual is spend more than we make and go ahead and print money. And all that's going to do is going to drive more inflation. It's going to drive asset prices up. It's going to have all the hodlers continue to hodl because they know that this game is going on. It's only going to increase prices. And you're going to get more people. The more people that are affected by inflation and they see that it's bad, then they ask the question, well, how do I stop this? Or how do I defend myself against it? And that's where we get to the point that we start making more and more people get into Bitcoin, right? To move away from this. That's kind of, I'm just going to keep this super high level. The biggest takeaway from this bill is that there's going to be some tax cuts. People can spend that money, but I don't think that's going to move the needle as dramatically as the deficit, and then which is going to likely lead to quantitative easing and printing of money. And what does that do? That brings all asset prices up, and you want to be in the most volatile asset of them all, the most asymmetric, which is Bitcoin, risk reward adjusted. And that's what we can expect. I would imagine this is going to start to be real visible within 3 to 6 months. That aligns tightly with the 4-year cycle. And due to the fact that we have a lot going on right now, I could actually see this extending out even further. I was saying October of 25 is when we'd see a peak. I'm almost saying into Q1, Q2 of next year. So there we go. Big bill. Could have a lot of impacts on a big price for Bitcoin. Like and subscribe below. Tell me your thoughts. Keep stacking those stats. Stay sovereign. Thank you.